All right, Samsung Galaxy S4 Active on the left, Samsung Galaxy S4 regular on the right. Going to talk a little bit about the S4 Active and what I think about it. We live in a great state for the S4 Active. We are in Alaska, so we'll do some cool stuff with this phone outside to put it through its paces and see how it holds up. In general, just looking at the phones here, the S4 Active is a tad bit bigger. It feels bigger in your hand. It definitely feels thicker than the S4. It's got more substance to it. It weighs more. It feels bulkier. It is bulkier. In general, though, they're about the same camera layout, flash layout. These are both AT&T models. Both have speakers on the bottom, both with the Samsung and AT&T badges. They look very similar. They're obviously very similar. They are the same phone, essentially. But in terms of their overall look and feel, they're kind of the same. One of the biggest things that the S4 Active has that the S4 doesn't have is actual physical buttons on the bottom, which is kind of cool. I would almost prefer this than the soft keys. It makes it easy for if you're in the dark, or if it's your phone's in your pocket, or if you're not looking at it. It makes it a little bit easier to feel these buttons and to try and work these soft keys. But otherwise, the phones are essentially the same. Power buttons on the same side, volume buttons on the same side, speakers, cameras, microphones. That doesn't mean that the actual hardware is the same. We'll talk about the hardware next. So talking about a little bit of the differences in hardware, the biggest thing between these two phones is probably the screen technology, because that's what you're going to use and look at every time you pick up the phone. You know, now these screens are the same pixel dimensions, so they are both high resolution, you know, over 400 dpi resolution screens. This is an AMOLED screen on this guy on the S4, and it's an LCD display on the S4 Active. And basically, for people that don't understand specs, what that means is the color pop in the S4 is going to be a lot greater than the S4 Active, and so colors are going to look richer, darker, thicker, just an overall saturated image compared to the S4 Active. Now, does that mean the screen is bad? No, it just means that it's a little bit different. I would call it less pleasing than the S4. I actually like the way the colors look on the S4 better than I like the way they look on the S4 Active. But if you talk about the big picture, I like the way HTC and Apple do their colors and their screens better than both of these guys anyway. But, you know, when I pick up the S4 Active and I hold it in my hand and I kind of compare that to the S4, I kind of think, well, I don't know. I really do like the way the S4 looks better when I use it compared to the S4 Active. Getting away from the screen, one of the other things these guys have that's different is the camera. Got a 13 megapixel camera here on the S4, 8 megapixel camera on the S4 Active. What does that mean for real life? Well, most people don't need 13 megapixels in their pocket, so 8 megapixels is probably okay. Still a decent camera, very good, takes very good photos. But you do notice a difference in resolution. I mean, if we look at, you know, if we go to the camera here and go to the gallery and we zoom in on an image, you can definitely tell that, like, there's some you know, some pixelation when you zoom in. I mean, you know, the quality is great, don't get me wrong, but when you zoom in on the S4 and you look at the differences in screen, or excuse me, in camera quality, quality is not the right word. You can tell that you have more pixels in the S4, and so having 13 megapixels is great. Do you really need it? That's up to you. But again, this camera and this guy's no slouch either, so both pretty good choices in terms of the camera. One other thing to think about is that because the hardware is sort of different in these phones, developer support is going to be different for these phones as well. So you can see I'm running a CyanogenMod 10 here on my Galaxy S4, which means I've rooted it and I installed a custom ROM. Now, that is not necessarily the case for the S4 Active. I have actually rooted the S4 Active and gotten rid of all the Samsung and AT&T bloat, which is kind of what I wanted to do. But for right now, there are no custom ROMs available for this phone, and so the support from the development community is going to be a lot less on the S4 Active than it will be for on the S4 because of those subtle hardware differences. So if you like to play around with your phone, that's something else to keep in mind. The thing to mention is call quality, radio quality, wireless performance, LTE performance. They're both LTE, they're both Wi-Fi. They both work great in terms of what I've experienced using them on AT&T's network, using them with LTE, data speeds, calling, call quality, call drops. I haven't noticed any differences in between the S4 Active and the S4. Again, but those are very unscientific tests. That's just my overall use with both of these devices. And so what about the waterproof thing on the back of this? Well, I don't really understand. I mean, you look at this, you know, this thin, cheap plastic cover, which is, you know, pretty much the same as any other Samsung phone. And the only thing that keeps this phone waterproof is this little gasket, which I suppose that's enough. I mean, they've obviously tested it, you know, but it just seems like this doesn't give me a lot of confidence. This little snappy plastic case. I mean, what happens if I accidentally forget, you know, and I leave this gap? Does that mean the phone's going to get wet on the inside? Probably. So that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in order to get this phone wet. You know, just this little snap-on cover, but Samsung does claim that it is waterproof, and so we'll take their word for it here, and we'll dunk it here in a minute and see what happens. So how do they feel? How do they run? I mean, are they smooth? Are they laggy? Well, the S4, if you watch my review, has some lag in it. The S4 Active has a little bit of lag in it too, but in general, they're pretty fast phones. I would say side by side, they're very, very similar. I haven't noticed any sort of differences in terms of their user experience and how they feel in my hand. I'm not going to benchmark them. I don't do that. I don't like to run those kind of tests because in my opinion, they don't really, that's not really reflective of your real world use. I mean, it's just a number, right? So how do they feel in terms of what you experience in your hand? I would say they're very, 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 very similar. They're close. I don't notice any differences in terms of button lag, keyboard lag, home screen lag, app lag. They're close. Everything seems fast. Everything seems snappy, responsive. No major differences between the two phones in terms of what you get out of them with your experience with the software. They're both running Android 4.2, I believe. Let's just check that real quick. And I think, well, this is obviously rooted, but yeah, 2.2, and then this I think is running 2.2 as well. And this is again the stock ROM from AT&T. It's just got its bloat removed. But so yeah, so both current up to snuff in terms of their software. Hardware very, very similar. User experience very, very similar. Waterproof, not waterproof. Worse screen, better screen, worse camera, better camera, but again, still a really, really awesome phone. And truth be told, with my use of these guys, I keep the S4 in my pocket probably 99% of the time. When I'm out experiencing the Alaska backcountry and fishing and hiking and hunting, this is the phone I put in my pocket. We like to do things hardcore out here. We like to be outside. We like to be in the wet. And this is the phone to have when you're doing it. Okay, S4 and S4 Active. We're going to take these guys into the sun here. To see what the viewing looks like in the sun. Bright sun, full sun. These phones are both turned on full brightness as well. Pretty hard to see. I don't know if I would say that one is necessarily better than the other. They're both pretty difficult. I might even say that the S4, man, that's tough. S4 Active might be a little bit easier to see. Even that, it's pretty difficult. You know, I mean, for an outdoor phone, for something that's supposed to be used outside, bright sun is not its strong point. It's definitely usable. I mean, you can definitely see this. However, I don't know if I would call it good. And let's look at the S4. Again, usable, but barely. I mean, it's, you know, not an e-paper display, so it's probably not going to be something you'd want to use outdoors all day long in bright sun. Okay, here we go. Here's a little waterproof test. We got some water. We have a supposedly waterproof phone, and we're just going to throw it in there. And let's see what happens. I don't know. Well, let's go in the shade here so we can actually see the thing. Not bad. Well, the touchscreen is sort of not responsive when it's wet, so that's kind of annoying that you can't do anything. We'll just make sure the capacitive buttons work. Oh, that doesn't work either. Maybe it's broken. That would suck. Huh. Let's see, we have our waterproof cover over this thing. Oh, there we go. Let's go turn the power button. Power button works. Screen, you can see yeah, it's still responsive. Got to dry off my thumb. Let's dry off the screen. Let's try this again. So home button works. Menu works. Maybe my finger was just wet. Back. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Yeah, so we're still good here. Cool. Very cool. S4 Active, waterproof, Alaska Tough. So I hope you've gotten something out of this video. If you've liked it, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and check out all my other videos of Android, iPhone, and the latest and greatest in mobile technology. We'll see you soon.